I'm live. Oh my goodness. I'm live. Wow. I know. I look like a whole mess, don't I? This is the effects of life, children. The effects of life. It's me and my old N64 shirt having so. ManCave Archive is returning very, very soon. However, we have a lot of things that are going on, and it's all work based, all life based. It's all crazy all the time. And I really wanted to get this video off tonight. So excuse my little backsplash of craziness. Oh goodness gracious. How you guys doing? I hope you guys I hope this video finds you well. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I just wanted to do a quick little touching of the base, if you will. My brothers are one of my brothers is coming back in town, and my other brothers, obviously handling some business of his own. You know what I mean? And so, I just kind of felt like, man, let me at least have something to contribute to. Let me at least try to do something to further the Man Cave Archive. And you can clearly see I've been without a fresh fade for a hot minute. Friday coming though. It's Fresh Fade Friday. And so, man, wanted to get with you guys and obviously talk some news. Well, let me jump right off into the stuff that is kind of a little bit easier for me to explain. About a few weeks ago, I contracted a case of COVID. I know, right? You're not supposed to say that on the internet, right? You're not. I don't know. But I actually ended up getting it, and it ate me alive pretty well. Left me with a different perspective on things. And one of the things I realized is that time is short. This year, I'll be turning the big old 40, turning 40. Man, the kid is going to be 40. And it kind of hit me that, there's so much time that's wasted, so I don't want to go before God. And he looks at me and says, "What'd you do with the time I gave you?" And I say, "Nothing really." I just don't want that. Man, he's given me so many talents, and my imagination runs wild constantly. So why not make something that reflects uh, God's glory in creating me, TD Landrum, T.A. Landrum, aka your boy. So let's talk about it. First things first, of course, video game news. First off, the positive things that have taken place. The new Witcher animated movie came out on Netflix, and it was good. I personally like the Witcher series. I haven't really gotten the opportunity to play the games or read the books, but I have been an observer, if you will. My brother Tyson played the Witcher games all the time on the original Xbox 360, and he played that series pretty much to death, and it was definitely worth it. Just totally worth it. Totally worth it. But the other thing that I like about it is Henry Cavill really did a great job of playing Geralt of Rivia, and he was excellent in that series. And thus, there's an expectation that this is only going to get better. And this series looks to be something special. So uh, I am definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next with it. Um, I gotta tease one of my kids. Anyway, so then we're looking forward. That was really dope. Uh, the other thing that came out of Netflix, and there's a conflict here, guys. As a video gamer, I grew up with the Resident Evil franchise. Yes, grew up with it. I'll never forget Resident Evil 2, especially when it was brought to the N64, and that was where I first experienced it firsthand. And that game was every bit as revolutionary for the time that it was released as it was. Resident Evil 4 was a revelation. And so I'm very well versed with the Resident Evil universe, the characters. I mean, I grew up with them virtually. So they're going to be doing a reboot to the series because, in all honesty, Mila Jovovich with the original Resident Evil movie franchise. It was directed by, I believe it was Paul W.S. Anderson, I believe it was. I could check it out for you real quick. But he was great at introducing the Resident Evil franchise to a bunch of people who had never, ever, ever even heard of it. Uh, yes, Paul W.S. Anderson directed, and it was Mila Jovovich who played it. Michelle Rodriguez had played in it, and it definitely was not a Resident Evil franchise movie that played close to the video game. The closest thing, there were similarities, but it was not Resident Evil, the video game. Well, that franchise is completed. And now they're talking about doing a brand new iteration of the Resident Evil franchise. But this time they're going to reboot it and stick closer to the video games. I hate to tell y'all this, but I'm already not digging it. And it seems like, I don't know, Hollywood has done this really, really weird thing as of late where uh, they have decided to basically go against their fans. Like, I don't understand it. And what I mean by that is, so Resident Evil franchise initially starts off with Chris Redfield and I believe it's Claire Valentine. No, I'm sorry, Jill Valentine. That's Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield, their brother and sister. Jill Valentine, Leon S. Kennedy, they're completely unrelated characters, but they're dope. It started off with Chris and Jill, and they were survivors of a mansion that was up in the hills of Raccoon City. Well, then a virus, originally which was a T virus, went on to become the G virus in Resident Evil 2, had pretty much been a catalyst in the destruction of Raccoon City. And that's where we meet Chris, Leon S. Kennedy, and Claire Redfield. The movie does not look like they're trying to really cast for the video game. And I'll give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. Now, I like Robbie Mel. I know he played. The. I believe he played in the Arrow TV series. I didn't really get to watch Arrow. I was working. I would just tell you all the truth. Like I was working as a kid. I mean, like by the time I was like in my mid to late 20s, I watched Smallville, but I really didn't get to watch Arrow because I was too busy working. Um, but this dude here, from what I understand, he's a pretty decent actor. But when I look at him, um, yeah, he played inside of actually the Flash. I'm sorry, not the Arrowverse. Um, but they show him to play Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield in the Resident Evil franchise becomes kind of like the muscular dude. He's the bad apple of the group, honestly. Like, well, let me rephrase it. He's the overwhelming force. Okay, this kid does not give me that vibe at all. Um, Two, uh, they show. I guess he's supposed to be playing. Uh, I mean, on the pictures, she looks fine from IMDb. She doesn't look bad per se. But from the pictures of the movie, it looks a little raggedy. Like I hate saying it, but it does. She looks raggedy. And I understand, because in a video game, it's kind of glamorous, if you will. But at the same time, though, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like Resident Evil. If you're gonna say you're gonna cite that you're gonna be closer to the source material, get closer to the source material, right? So then, let's go ahead, and I don't really see much of a problem with the chick. Oh Lord, I see it already. Okay, so I see the chick who's gonna be playing. I guess Jill Valentine. It looks like they've turned her into a biracial woman. Yeah, because she plays in um, Ant Man and the Wasp. She's not a bad looking actress, but if you're saying you're going to stay closer to the source material, that would mean you want to stay closer to the source material. At least is what I think, right? I could be crazy. And then they completely race swapped Leon S. Kennedy. Can I be real with y'all? You can't get more Irish of a name than Leon Scott Kennedy. I'm just saying. In the video game, he's a white boy. In every iteration, he's a white boy. Uh, I don't even know what race this dude is. He could be, and it's not even the importance of race. It's about sticking closer to the source material. And I know, obviously, somebody would say, "Hey, you guys said you really don't want to get into that stuff," but it's kind of like the dog turd inside of your front lawn. You know, the one that's wet and mushy. Like you don't step in it, right? You point it out. And if you happen to see whose dog did it, you tell them, "Hey, get that, yeah, you, no, 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 you come get that. I didn't pay for yard of the month for you, so and put your dog biscuits in my front yard. Get that. I've had to do that. I've had to do it, and I didn't care." Because when you're spending money on taking care of business for your front lawn, you want it taken care of. And at the time, my grass was spectacular. It was. Well, we're gonna get back there. We're gonna get there because we're gonna be all right. But yeah, it's just that's it doesn't feel like they're really trying to be authentic with it. The pictures look low budget, the costumes look low budget, and I don't know if anybody realizes that's what fans are really, really kind of like getting irritated about. They just think of it as you're making fun of the actor and actresses, and that's what I've always hated about giant corporations is that they don't look at what they're doing to infect the environment. They use their human meat bags. I mean, actors, actresses, customer service representatives, however you want to say it. They use them, they put them up front, and they say, hey, you're really directing your attacks at them. At them. See these 10 fingers I got? These 10 pawns? I mean, fingers, my meat bags. And that's what's so upsetting about it. Is that rather than listen to the criticism of the fans and say, we're trying to get your dollars. Like, guys, I hate to break it, everybody, but do you really think that the Avengers became one of the biggest movies because you had a bunch of people who were going to go see it who's first time comic book readers? Guys, this is far from the truth as possible. I knew guys who went to see that movie, went to go see the Avengers movies 5 or 6 times in the theaters. Guys, I went to go see the Avengers at least 3 times in the theaters. And I'm talking for one movie. Like, I went to go see Infinity War 3 times, I think. And then I went to go see uh, Endgame 3 times in the theater. No joke, because I love that movie that much. So I'm trying to tell y'all, you're missing your base. You're missing your base. So we've addressed the life, which was the crazy beer bug, if you will. And so now we've addressed video game news, obviously with movie news. Guys, And we even talked about The Witcher on Netflix. Check it out. It's really good. Um I have for the last couple weeks, I've been really for the last couple months, really the summer, I've been digging into music like hardcore to the point where I want to actually start doing a little bit of a thing on the ManCave Archives on music. And I want to say that it what struck me was a couple things. One, I really love J. Cole's The Off Season. That is one of the best hip hop albums that I've heard in a long time. And it's because it spoke to me on so many levels. I mean, you know, when when you feel like you're hearing when something inspires your spirit to the point where you you feel even God telling you, I got you. That artist to me has connected with that person who's listening in a different way. And I had that experience with the off season. And it wasn't like I'm not saying Jesus is writing on the lyrics because not all the lyrics are the best, but I also understand that people talk different, and how they express themselves is how they express themselves. But I always felt like God was the author and finisher of our not only faith but our thoughts. Even we don't even realize it though, right? We don't realize where a lot of these thoughts are generated and germinated from. And artwork definitely is that. Music is art, in my opinion. Well, I finally got the opportunity to listen to the off season. It was amazing. Willow came out with an EP, if you will, and one of her headline singles was Transparent Soul. And it featured Travis Barker, who was doing obviously the drums and the production of it. And it was amazing. She immediately took me back to like that. Oof, goodness gracious, that 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9 ish period where you had like the Flyleafs, the Paramours, all these, you know, heavy but harmonic, luscious sounding, uh, beautifully crafted pieces of music that came from those bands. And there was a few others that were out there that kind of jumbled in because you got to go back to like the late 1990s with like the Halo Friendlies who were on Tooth and Nail Records as well when they were doing their thing. And I know some people are like, man, I ain't never heard of these bands, but it's like, trust me, it was a scene. It was a scene, even down to the No Doubt era. I ain't talking about like No Doubt that we know, like in the early 2000s. I'm with a No Doubt back in like 1993, 4 Tragic Kingdom style, like Orange County, No Doubt with Gwen Stefani leading the way on that. And then it's like it kind of just reverberated all the way through, and she hit her marks. Willow hit her marks. That girl is talented, and I pray that that she continues to be able to have the right people around her who give her that type of inspiration with her music. Um, but I'll also say this too. Um, Big, huge fan of the way they got that going. But then, obviously, like I said, J. Cole, Donda released on Sunday. Guys, that is such a big album. Like, I've listened to it so many times. And I want to review it, but I really want to give a smart review. Like, I don't want to just review it, say I like it, you should listen to it, and that's it. Like, I want to give you guys a little bit of meat on the bone. So when I talk about this music, you'll understand not only how big of a fan that I am, but that maybe you'll begin to listen for music and listen to it in a different way. So that way you can get a different vibe and begin to understand it in your own way. Like I'm not saying I'm a be all end all, but I always feel like, man, if we can all talk about these things, our languages will begin to create new perspective and give new birth to new thoughts and imaginations, right? That's just me. But anyway, so let's get on it. I got to talk about that Baby Keem and Kendrick. He has returned Lamar. This the title of the song is Family Ties. It reflects to me, in my opinion, explaining how they got where they got to. um Baby Keem leads the way he really leads like close to maybe just a hair underneath because the song kind of breaks down into like three parts, right? And it's so funny because in them breaking in these three different points, Keem is telling his story about, how he started at a certain point. And the way that it starts with this beautiful crescendo of horns, but then it has a clarinet sample that plays and cuts. It plays and cuts. And you can hear it. It gives almost this epic type sound. Kind of reminds me of Mad 90, like the Madden series back in like the 90s, when the way would come on. It just reminds me of that because that's where I grew up in, right? So I can kind of relate to where some of these sounds are coming from and why they kind of remind me of that. Even with like, the music that would come on with Fox football, the NBA, John Tesh, when he had his theme song going for the NBA, it was great. But again, he breaks it up and he's just pounding this. Just when I say pounding, I mean Keem is on the microphone and he is trying to overwhelm your senses with the storytelling, everything from, you know, using the metaphors. It can be a little graphic. I'm not gonna lie, it's not for the faint of heart, but he goes into explaining about, the struggle of getting to where, you've got a little car that has tint on it to where now you're building up. You started off when you were independent and nobody was really rocking with you, but now all of a sudden he's made it, and he has come a long way. Keem has a couple of other big tracks out there with artists such as, I believe, Travis Scott and so on and so forth. And if you don't know who Travis Scott is, like, guys, listen, Travis is one of the biggest artists in the world right now. Like, I'm waiting for his project to drop. So he hit us with Astro World. Listen, Birds in the I believe it's Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. That was a great one. Rodeo was the one with Antidote that really, really set him off. That used to be my driving home after a successful day of sales job. Like that was my jam. Like Antidote. That was it. Back in, I want to say, about 2015, 16-ish. I want to say right there. And then he released Birds and Trap Sing McKnight. He had a couple tracks, one with Kendrick, which was like Kendrick was amazing. He was killing it. So then he came out with Astroworld, and that just he should have really won Album of the Year. But they gave it to Cardi, but he really should have won Album of the Year for that one. Astroworld was tremendous. Do not doubt me. Amazing work. Really, really amazing work. And so you go over to again, Keem is killing it. He transitions from this epic sounding beat to this very subtle, melodic, throbbing. It had these beautiful keys that play, and almost like a horn, like a subtle horn section to it. And then out of nowhere, it just begins to throb and throb and throb, and then stop. And that's where King Kendrick makes his return. And he's this beat, it's random. It's all over the place. It's kind of greasy, but it's throbbing. It's throbbing hard and it's throbbing fast. And then out of nowhere, you like I said, you hear this familiar voice. And he's like, hey, I'm smoking on your top five tonight. And, you know, hearing his voice again reminds you as to why you loved his style of storytelling to begin with. So one of my favorite things is one of my favorite verses because he starts off with it, but it sets the tone. He says, I am the Omega, PG Lang, Roller Gang, SIE. Don't you address me unless it's with four-letter words. It's with four, oh man, unless it's with four letters. I'm sorry, not four-letter words. Sorry. I killed that one. But guys, He called himself the GOAT, in case you haven't figured it out. And just the way that he's going through all these different scenarios as to what he's been up to. It's like I've been dug in the pandemic. I've been avoiding these scenarios that don't really yield much fruit. He went through a whole litany of things that he's been doing to try to like keep his mind in the right place. And you would think that after like since 2017 he hasn't released anything. It's about to be 2020, essentially 2022. He really released, I believe, Damn at the top of 2017, I believe. I believe it was either at the top of 2017. I think it was the top of 2017. And so it's closer to 5 years. But dude, when he starts rapping, you realize he hasn't lost a step. Like, I'll give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. So, Eminem, back in, I think he released Encore, right? And he had begun his process of going through detox. And so he released an album, and the album was titled Relapse. Relapse is considered to be Eminem's weakest album, honestly. It really is. But out of Relapse, because he had worked so hard and conditioned himself to give it everything he got, we ended up with Recovery. While people will argue that Recovery is his most pop sounding album out of all of the Eminem's catalog, to me, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest that's ever been released. I Everything from Cold Wind Blows to Won't Back Down, all these different things that Eminem had put together on that whole joint was incredible. Kendrick has not given us a relapse. And while I'm not saying, because I know that Eminem had went through a loss of a major friend, he'd overcome addiction. It's a different path he's got to get to that point where he's able to produce a recovery. Uh, I'm going to say this. Uh, Kendrick gets on this thing and he's rapping as if he hasn't lost a step. In fact, one of my favorite parts is he says, is when he suddenly puts on these, because again, Keem has like given us multiple parts of his story. Kendrick has given us multiple parts of his story, but with different voices. And what I mean is that he's speaking to different things. So one of my favorite parts is when he says, I'm tripping, I'm jugging, my mental is amazing, brother. Pop off only on occasion, brother. It's that, first off, just that subtlety right there. It changes everything to the dynamic of how he's saying it. And then he finally goes into like this other voice where he's explaining everything about telling folks, hey, I'm back, but let me tell y'all something. Clearly, you need me because hip hop hasn't been the same. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. Hip hop needs inspiration. It needs inspiration, honestly. Uh, and what I mean by inspiration is that I'll give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. So Donda has released, and even though Kanye is complaining and has stated that there were certain things he wanted different than what was put out there to the public and the masses, it was consumed so ravenously and so ridiculously. It's number one in over 150 countries, right? And not only that, but when I talk about the way that that album dropped, the way that y'all don't understand. Hip hop needs music like this. It needs good music. I'm not talking about hip hop that gets lost in there. I'm talking about like good music, just good music. Donda is one of those. Off season is one of those. Family Ties is one of those. I love the Book of Ryan. That's one of my other favorites. King's Disease 2 was dope. King's Disease 1 was amazing. Um, but it needs consistent replenishment of the palette. Because hip hop, unfortunately, it's always been kind of based upon like there's a deeper subtext to it, but there's also this thing about the trends, right? And everybody's rolling on trends from time to time. Kendrick is the only guy who I've seen who said, I'm not going with the trend. Because when trap was everything at one point in time, Migos was on top, everybody was doing trap. I mean, yo, grandmama was doing trap. I'm just being real. Kendrick was one of the few guys who said, I'm gonna give y'all a classic. I'm gonna give y'all the Pimp a Butterfly. To Pimp a Butterfly, one of the greatest pieces of art I've ever listened to. Still to this day, my favorite Kendrick album. And all of them are great. But To Pimp a Butterfly speaks to me in a different way. And so, hearing Kendrick on this one and the way that he broke it down to where it kind of reminded me of The Heart Part 4 back in I want to say like 2017, just before he released Damn, I think it was. Um, it, it 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 certainly has that vibe of like, listen, guys, I'm coming back, and this is going to be ridiculous, and I'm looking for it. I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. I'm all here for it. I can't look any further forward to it. But man, I can't wait because Travis Scott is going to have. I think he's slated to be releasing Utopia this year as well too. Plus, he's going to be doing his concert, so it's going to be crazy. And everything is going to be nuts, man. It's going to be nuts. But I'm looking forward to it. That's my review of Family Ties. Is that it's one of the best things that's been produced and released this year. And hip hop has been kind of lacking for a little bit. Uh, Guys, I'm not really hip hop has different genres and subtexts and everything like that. I'm not really into a lot of stuff. Uh, Certainly not into Megan Thee Stallion. Hey, she's nice to look at, but that don't really speak to me. Sorry. She has her place, but just not my collection of music. Uh, but man, I'm really looking forward to this year's music, man, and I hope I provided some context. I was only supposed to talk about it for like 10 minutes, and I'd have droned on and on and on. I apologize for that. I'll try to do better next time. But hey, man, the ManCave Archive is coming back soon. We're gonna keep on delivering great content. We've just been busy with life. Like I said, guys, unfortunately, I contracted COVID. Sorry about that. Trust me, I am one of the worst experiences I've ever had. But more so than anything, we're still here. Holla at your boys. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe. I pray this was entertaining for you guys. And let me know if you have any other questions or if you even like the music section I'm trying to introduce. And let me know if there's some other music you want me to review as well, too. I am open to suggestions. Later. Have a great night. God bless.